Once upon a time, high atop a peaceful mountain, there stood a small monastery. It was a quiet place, filled with calm, where a wise old master lived with a few of his devoted disciples. Their lives were simple. Each day was spent in meditation, mindfulness, and learning the path to inner peace. Among the disciples was a young monk who had recently joined. He was sincere, eager to learn, but still new to the spiritual journey. Like the others, he would go down the hill each morning to the nearby village to collect alms. One day, as the young monk went door to door, he knocked on a house. A young woman opened it. She had just taken a bath, and her wet hair clung gently to her glowing face. The monk had never seen such beauty before. His eyes froze. His mind, for the first time, felt something he couldn't explain. The woman smiled kindly and brought food for him. She offered it with great respect, and the young monk thanked her and returned to the monastery. But her image remained alive in his mind. The next morning he woke up early and got ready quickly. Though monks were taught to visit different houses each day, he ignored the rule. He returned to the same house just to see her again. She greeted him warmly, offered food again, and he returned once more, this time with a smile on his face and a storm in his heart. The routine repeated. One morning he reached her house even earlier than usual. The woman opened the door and said politely, "Venerable sir, I offer alms only after I've taken a bath. Today you're early. Kindly wait while I go to the river." The monk agreed. But as soon as she left, he quietly followed her to the river. Hiding behind a tree, he watched her bathe. At first, guilt flickered in his heart. He thought, "What am I doing?" But lust soon took over. He continued watching her with a restless mind. When she finished, he rushed back before her, pretending he had waited patiently. The woman returned, unaware of what had happened, and gave him food with the same respect. From that day on, this secret routine continued. The young monk stopped talking to others. He seemed lost in thought. Meditation became difficult. His peace was disturbed. His heart was restless. The wise master began noticing the change in him. One day, the master gently called him and asked, "What's troubling you, my child?" The young monk replied, "Nothing, master. I'm just not feeling well." The master nodded silently but decided to observe him more closely. The next morning, when the young disciple left for alms, the master secretly followed him. From a distance, he saw it all. The monk hiding behind a tree at the riverbank, watching the woman bathe. The master sighed deeply. His heart ached, not with anger but with sorrow. Quietly, he walked up behind the monk and placed a firm hand on his shoulder. The young monk turned around, shocked, terrified. His face turned pale and his body trembled. He tried to speak, to explain, but his voice shook. The master said nothing. He simply held the monk's hand and led him away. They walked in silence until they reached a small, muddy pond, stagnant and still. The master pointed to it and said, "Can you walk through this pond and come back?" The monk, still nervous, agreed and began removing his robe. "Why are you taking off your robe?" the master asked. The disciple replied, "Master, the pond is dirty. If I go in with my robe, it will get spoiled." The master smiled gently and said, "You are not ready to dirty your robe, which is not very precious. But you allowed your priceless mind to be stained so easily." He continued, "This robe can be washed. But when the mind gets dirty, it is not so simple to clean it. Lust is like this mud. At first it seems harmless, but once you step in, it clings. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink." The master looked into his disciple's eyes and said, "When you let lust enter your mind, it stains you, traps you. And if you don't stop, it will pull you deeper and deeper." The young monk's eyes filled with tears. His shame was heavy. He knelt before his master and said, "Please forgive me. I have lost my way." The master gently placed his hand on his shoulder and said, "Falling is not your defeat, but staying fallen is. Rise again, stronger and wiser." From that day onward, the young monk truly began his spiritual path. He stopped going for alms. He stayed in the monastery and turned inward. He faced his desires. He guarded his thoughts. He began purifying his mind and heart. Through meditation and discipline, he cleansed himself of the lust that once controlled him. Years passed. That young monk grew into a great teacher, known far and wide for his wisdom and peace. And he would often tell his disciples, "Victory over others is temporary, but victory over oneself is eternal," a reflection for our time. In our modern lives, especially among the youth, many struggle with unwanted sexual thoughts. These thoughts disturb the mind, distract from work or studies, and create inner restlessness. The more we resist them, the stronger they seem to return. But these thoughts are not random. They often rise from what we have seen, watched, or imagined in the past. And today we are constantly exposed to such content, especially on the internet. Much of what we consume online is explicit or vulgar. And when we watch it, those scenes get planted deep in the mind. Later, those thoughts return again and again, making us feel like the mind is out of control. But the truth is simple. If you stop feeding your mind with such content, those thoughts will fade. If you stop watching vulgar material, your mind begins to heal. If you practice meditation, your mind will become clear and calm again. Meditation helps erase deep impressions, brings clarity, and gives strength to overcome temptation. So avoid planting the seeds of lust in your mind. Protect your thoughts. Meditate daily. And slowly, your mind will become peaceful, focused, and full of true inner power.